My name is Jane Borowski. In 1988, when I was just 22 years old, I was attacked and stabbed 27 times and left for dead. I am a survivor. In the 1970s and 80s, women's bodies started to surface in the Connecticut River Valley between New Hampshire and Vermont. Is my case related to these cases? This is unknown. Why? Because all the cases still remain unsolved. Are all the cases related in the work of one serial killer? We don't know that either. But law enforcement did form a task force in the 80s to investigate all of them. I've joined forces with my co-host Amanda and Drew. Together, we are a voice for the voiceless. We advocate for those who cannot advocate for themselves while remaining factual and engaging with empathy. The Invisible Tears team is transparent and opinionated, never claiming to be anything we are not. We aren't law enforcement, we aren't private investigators or journalists. We are victim advocates who care and want to help families.
So make sure you subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss any episodes. You can find us on all platforms through our link tree in the show notes. There you can find our social media platforms, our YouTube, and our website with our merch. You can also find our Patreon there. So if you're interested in supporting and joining the Invisible Tears team, join our Patreon today. And as always, ratings and recommendations help our podcast in algorithms. So if you haven't shown us some love and given us a 5-star rating and review, please do so. We appreciate each and every one of you and your continued support. Welcome to Invisible Tears. Amanda here, one of the co-hosts of Invisible Tears. I'm here today with Drew and, of course, Jane. Today, we're going to be overviewing the case of Denise Robert, and we are extremely honored to be able to have some of her brothers on with us to be able to do this overview and talk about Denise as she was in life and her personality, and just to make sure that we get all the information out there about her case and what transpired with her case. So Tom, Ernie, and John, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Of course. And so I'm not sure who wants to start off, but I would love to start off with talking about Denise and how she was in life.
I'll start off, and I suppose I'll start off from the very beginning. As we alluded to, our family situation was all about
survival.
Children coming into the household, growing up and leaving, and there were large groups of people there at any one time. So it was about children. It was about raising children and that sort of thing. Now, as you imagine, two people can't raise 12 children all by themselves. And traditionally, French-Canadian families, just not French-Canadian families, but the older ones have to kick in and help out with the younger ones day in and day out to get things done. So Denise being the earliest, she was exposed to it earliest, and she sort of led the charge. She was the oldest one. My father always impressed the idea that the oldest ones have to lead, the oldest ones are responsible, and we have to get it done. Mm-hmm. So Denise was one of those people. Denise was the first, I was the third. She was a big influence on me, particularly in that stage of my life. And that's pretty much what went on. It wasn't a day in, day out thing. It wasn't a 24-hour thing. We had time for ourselves. We had time for, as we grew older, part-time jobs, involvement in schools and that sort of thing. But the calendar was full. Denise was probably one of the first, she was the first one to leave the house. She went on, my memory serves me correct, she went off to school.
Yeah, she did a year at UNH.
Some people can fill in the gaps there, but essentially, from what I could see, that was a stepping off point, and she gradually, got to the point where she was economically, with her job and all that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, growing up, did you guys grow up in Manchester, New Hampshire? Is
Yes.
that
All
where
of
you
us.
grew up?
Yes.
All of you guys. Yep. Okay.
Mhm. We lived in the same house, pretty much all of us, right from birth to when we left for school.
Wow.
I mean, that's continuity.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, we didn't know any other house. My father passed away, and it wasn't until my father passed, and the house was pretty much empty at that point. My mother moved to Bedford and bought a condo.
Mm-hmm.
We grew up right next door to the house that my great grandfather built. He was a carpenter, came down from Canada, and John and Joe own the building now, but it's right next door. So we've been in that area a long time.
Oh, that's wonderful. How neat.
Mm.
It's great.
so she went to college at UNH.
She did a year at UNH, and I forget, it might have been money or something, but she came home. I mean, a lot of us, had some not false starts, but went out of the house, came back for whatever reason, and it wasn't a revolving door, but there was some, getting established. Maybe didn't work out. You came back for a little while, and then you left, and she was no different. She went to Hesser, locally, and then she started working, most clearly, long term. Hooksett. I think she was for the town administrator in Hooksett for many, many years. And then she got into, it was the little newspapers. It was a consortium, I guess, of some small newspapers that targeted certain areas like Goffstown and maybe Candia, Deerfield kind of thing. And that's where she really got into the sales aspect. And ultimately, the union leader bought that and absorbed it. And, that's how she got in with the union leader.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, I think I read something. Just want to make sure and clarify with you guys too. So, I mean, she essentially worked in newspaper ad sales for over 30 years. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and she used to, in addition to sales, my understanding, she used to design the ads too. She was very creative, in terms of art. Other family members have some of her pen and ink and whatnot drawings, and she also, and I guess that's a form of commercial art when you design advertising.
Yeah. I believe a lot of that was free computer.
Yes.
It
Oh,
was-
yes.
It was cut and
Freehand,
paste and stuff like that. It was old fashioned advertising production.
Yep.
Yep. I think I read something too that says that said that Denise always remained active throughout her entire life. Like
Oh,
physical
yes,
fitness was
very.
really important to her.
Oh, yeah, very, very. She was very physical. She had a lot of nervous energy, I think, too, as a way to burn it off. But running, biking, hiking. Yeah, I can remember. Geez, when I was young, we'd pedal out to Goffstown from Manchester, just on a lark. Then there was the Glen Lake thing that, my brother Peter too, used to be a thing to go out to Glen Lake in Goffstown and go swim across the lake. I was a terrible swimmer, so if I went with him, I took an inner tube and
Yeah.
because I couldn't keep up, and I was afraid I was going to drown halfway through. So, that's some other outlets. Oh, and should we mention Livingston Pool? Peter too. And Denise used to sneak into Livingston's pool after hours. They would work, and it'd be a hot summer night, and it'd be 10 o'clock, and they say, "Oh, let's go jump into Livingston." That was a form of deviance, I guess, but
She didn't sit around.
no.
She realized that there were things out there that she wanted to do, things that she needed to achieve, things that would get her someplace, and she engaged in that stuff. She didn't waste much of her time at all.
Yeah,
Well,
these workouts could happen at any time. I mean, like she got home late from the office, she'd get out, go running. It could be like 10, 11, 12, or even, I think me and my friends were coming home from like someone's house. We were drinking beer that night. It must have been 2:30, and there was Denise out walking.
Oh wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, so she was out there anytime. When she needed to get it in, she would get it in.
She
And same
definitely
thing with the office at the newspaper too, is she was legendary for coming in 10 p.m. Sunday night and working like 2, 3 in the morning. Whenever she was ready to do it, she wasn't trapped by like the conventional schedule.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh,
Everyone
and
else
she's-
was.
that's well put. But she was a night owl too, to be sure.
She never married, or did she marry?
No,
No, never married. She was too busy working.
she was always busy. Yeah, doing something. I guess I can't remember the guy's name, but they were making it was a Halloween party they're going to, and they're going as the Killer Bees. And they were putting together a costume. But no, why she never married, I don't know.
My read on it was that we were brought up in kind of a way that there was a proper and right way to do things. I'm not saying Denise fit into that nicely, but she had some interests, and I'm not exactly sure how to put this right or put it accurately, but if the interest wasn't panning out, just let it go and live her life and see what came on, if something else came along.
Mhm.
It might be difficult for me to name them or to remember them.
So she was just very independent.
Oh, for sure.
She
Yeah.
wanted to do what she wanted to do, and she wanted to work, and she was just very independent. She didn't feel like she really needed a man, but I'm sure that if she met that one, she would have settled down.
If she found it.
Yeah.
Two, a part of our upbringing, if you maybe this doesn't really relate, but if you wanted something, you knew you had to really do a lot of it yourself. My parents had limited time and resources, so you had to make it happen yourself. But I guess that doesn't really apply to that.
Oh, I totally get it. My father was a one of 12, and
Yeah.
You get it.
I totally get it. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, he was born in the house down the street from where I live right now.
Oh,
no
And
kidding.
three of them were
Yeah.
born in the house that he grew up in.
Mhm.
And they didn't have much resources. They worked in the fields down here at the farm, and they did it as a family, but they were a close family. In actuality, like you guys, not all 12 really lived in the house at the same time. It was like one would move out, and then my grandmother would have another one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it was always a full house, but
yeah.
And back then is when they started going off to service a lot too. So
Mhm.
most of the boys
Yeah.
went off to service, and oh yeah, I totally get that kind of lifestyle. Absolutely.
Okay. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about as far as like Denise, as far as like her personality, her likes, her interests? I think we covered her pretty well, to
So
be honest with you. Yeah. Yeah. I think I got a good gauge of who
Oh, yeah.
Denise was.
Right.
Definitely.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. So let's fast forward a little bit to August 30th, 2015. So let's walk through the events that transpired on that date.
In terms of like Denise's activities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ernie, you did a nice little.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, I don't have it at hand, but I can paraphrase it. She was out shopping, doing some errands, and I know they have her on camera at like Hannaford, I think Walmart in Bedford, and she did show up at the Executive Court Club. That was like her second home. The Executive Court Club is over by the airport.
Mhm.
She spent a lot of time there.
What is
especially-
that?
It's a workout club.
Oh, a gym.
A
Like a
gym,
gym.
exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
and when the weather was bad or something, she liked to be outside. But she showed up there. But ultimately, she parked her car at in north end of Manchester. The what was the name of the church, Tom or John?
Brookside Congregational.
Yeah, and they've got a pretty big parking lot there. They own a big chunk of land there. It's a significant piece. It's right on North Elm.
Yep.
Now, what
and she-
time of day was this?
About 8-ish. It was probably still light or dusk
8 at
That-
night.
at that point. Yeah, geez, I wish I had that. At any rate,
Okay.
she was known. She used to walk in the North End. It's a nice area of town. That was kind of her Sunday night routine. And, you know, she would, it's the kind of a place, hey, if it's really nice and you get there early, you can loop into Livingston Park. But it's a nice area to walk. So she was known to do that. That's normal for her. So she parked her car in the church parking lot, and then she went out on her walk. And at some point, I just remember that evening, I'm kind of in the habit of checking the news before I go to bed. You know, MUR said, oh, something's going on in the North End. Not sure what it is, but there's a heavy police presence. And I didn't think anything of it. I went to bed. I was certainly familiar with the area. It caught my attention in that sense, but I went to bed at that point. Of course, Tommy, you were the first one to be contacted.
Yes. I had a knock at my door. I lived at the time in the south end of Manchester. I had a knock on the door. It was alarming because things like that don't normally happen, but it turned out to be a woman with two people that had the word police on their sleeves, on their jerseys. To me, that was non-typical. I didn't expect that, but it was somebody from the Attorney General's office and the Manchester Police Department telling me that my sister had been shot and she was deceased, and they kind of filled me in with what they knew at the time. So from there, you know, I went to see my mother, talk to my mother, and then we made phone calls to the rest of the siblings. And from then it was just, it is what it is.
How many girls are in the family?
Oh, the breakdown is 3 girls and 9 boys. The
Yeah.
first 2 were actually girls.
Yep.
Denise, the oldest, and Francois. And then there was Tommy, Peter, myself.
Marty
Marty, thank you.
and
Ann, yeah, I'm trying to think, where does Ann fit in? Yeah, and Ann, Arthur, David, John, Joe, Chuck. Did I miss anybody?
I'll run with it. I didn't count, but it sounded
All right.
good.
So did they didn't say anything about suspects or anything? I mean, they just tell you that and then they leave?
Well, you know, I brought him in, I sat him down. They were there to answer my questions, I guess, if I had any. But they were doing the investigation portion of, you know, the crime scene. And I didn't think that they knew a lot. I think they were still gathering the facts. And it's been a few years now, and it's not as crystal clear as it used to be. So I can't tell you exactly what we spoke about, but I think they gave me a rough idea of what happened, and you know, we just really went with there. We split up with the idea that we would keep in touch, with the idea that they would, you know, give us an idea of what they have. But of course, they wanted to question us. I remember them saying that that would be something that they would want to do at some point down the road.
Well, you know, I guess the big picture, that's been the point all along. They've suspects, they may have some, they haven't shared with them. We don't certainly have any that I know of, discussing amongst ourselves. And exactly what happened, that's been the key. I mean, there's, you know, the bullet they never found. At one point, here again, paraphrase, I don't know if it was a drive-by or whatnot. They never found the bullet. They had waves of people looking at the site. And even, you know, years later, I think 2 years later, they had a reenactment of the scene with what they knew to try to jog people's memories or something. That kind of parlays also with there's a, you know, I'm going from my experience. I assume this in talking with other people too, there's a natural tension between the police and the family, because the family wants answers and actions. They want to know stuff.
Mhm.
but they can't really play their hand. Good, bad, or indifferent. That's the reality of it. So you're always dancing around that, and it can cause enormous frustration, especially as
But
time goes on.
but you kind of wonder, are they doing their job? Are they still investigating the case? You still want answers, and her case is still unsolved. I might go off a little bit because I'm not really happy with them right now either. But it's not about giving you information about the case or anything like that. It's about making them still do their jobs, making sure they're still investigating this case, and they're still working on trying to find who did this to her and justice. I mean, I just I'm sorry.
No, Jane, quite all right. Ernie, in case you didn't know, Ernie wasn't at the rally. This is the core group that started the rallies, started this annual rally in Concord to call attention to these unsolved cases. So this is why Jane's going to be very vocal. And
Sure.
the group has starting to affect real change. So I'm very thankful to be associated and to help out and to
Well,
be a
that's the
part of it.
thing. I thought I was alone, and we started collaborating with other families and finding out that we all had the same grievances with the AG's office, with these unsolved cases. And that's when we started the coalition, and we started having our rallies, and just what the families want and what we're asking for is just answers and some accountability and justice. And we want to know that they're doing their jobs and doing the best they can to get answers to these families, and that's what we're trying to do.
We're gonna have to take a break for some ads. Now back to our episode.
So her shooting was like pretty random, and they didn't find the bullet or anything like that.
No bullet, my understanding. Random. Was she targeted? Was someone?
Yeah.
My theory is, and this is so Denise, someone wanted her to do something she didn't want to do, and she probably said, you could no, very emphatically, I'm not doing that or going with you or whatever it was, and that's what came out of it. That's my theory.
Yeah, speculation. Nobody really
Yeah.
knows. Nothing's been substantiated. All we can do is really speculate.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Because the police didn't see anything that would have alluded to any sort of robbery, correct?
Right. She didn't have much on her anyway. Maybe just the car keys, I believe.
Now, were the authorities able to determine like the distance in which she was shot and or like the
at one point
ammunition size?
the Chief Willard, who was police chief at the time, came out and said it was, through trajectory and whatnot and ballistics, he felt it was someone shot from a car. But I don't know if anybody has anything. I remember that was from the Union leader. A quote.
Okay.
Oh.
And it was a singular gunshot. Is that correct?
My understanding is it was only one wound.
One bullet, and the casing was never found.
The bullet itself, I don't know about the casing.
Oh,
The casing, I guess
yes.
not. I guess not.
My recollection is that they never found the bullet and they never found the casing.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
I think the only thing that they really have is a wound.
Right.
If you
That's
drop
great.
what you can.
Yep.
Yeah.
Can you no, I don't want it. If it's not supposed to be known, I don't want you guys to share. But where was she hit?
She was shot in the neck between C1 and C2,
The back of the neck,
the side.
the side,
Mhm.
and they didn't find a bullet. So
No, that's been and
That's
there were
odd.
several passes. Even the neighbors. You got to remember, this was quite the media event, or
I
it was a big
remember
deal.
it.
In a sense,
Yeah.
the media. I mean, after the police were done, the neighbors got together and they got a bunch of metal detectors and they combed the area, and the police was supportive. They had a van there for evidence in case they found something. But they didn't. As far as I know, they haven't said anything.
That's really suspicious.
Yeah.
I have a theory, and I'm pretty comfortable with it. I'm thinking the person shot from a point that was lower than Denise was standing on the sidewalk, and I just think the bullet took off, went through her, and took off into the next neighborhood. That's why they never found it. After visiting the scene, it's possible. There's a few trees that are there that would probably stop a bullet, but there's lots of open space for it to travel and move away. And let's just say if the shot was taken from the road, if it was shot taken from the hip, or let's just say inside of a small automobile, let's just say like a Honda Civic, the person would be sitting low to the ground. And my sister was on the sidewalk, or at least she was found on the sidewalk, which is elevated. That would allow for, the bullet to, take off into the next county.
It's a complicated scene in the sense with the angles and the pitches. It was kind of on a hill.
Yeah.
And I seem to remember the road is pitched a little bit, and
Yeah.
It's not a simple sort of XY thing. There's a
Right.
lot of variables.
Could be a lot of variables, like a
That struck me.
reenactment.
Yeah. But a bullet was never found.
I just find that really odd.
Yeah.
It'd certainly be nicer if we found one. It would give us some more information. But it's just one of the things about Denise's case. I don't think they have a lot to go on, and it leaves us maybe grasping at straws, theorizing, that sort of thing, or just now hoping that somebody who knows something comes forward and helps us out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the
absolutely.
thing. It's somebody out there knows something, and unfortunately, until they come forward.
Well, I guess it's there's a couple of things I hang my hat on in terms of being hopeful. Things keep coming up. There was that when they went to Londonderry, that apartment, they had a search warrant and they were poking around there. I don't know if anything came of it, but 10 years hence, it's not a cold case. That apparently things still trail in. I certainly don't have any information to quantify it, but I'm hoping that some of our efforts here on keeping the case in the public eye and consciousness that is at least fostering that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got a couple of questions. Now, they saw her on camera at the different stores.
Yes.
Now, is that where she was found? Is that a heavily traveled road? Is it like a main road or a side road?
It parallels Chestnut Street, which is busy, but it's a residential neighborhood and it's a side street. To characterize it, it doesn't see heavy traffic, but it's kind of dark. And I think like I say, I'm not sure when the sun sets, but late in August, you notice the sun setting earlier. It probably wasn't. It certainly wasn't broad daylight.
I was just wondering if they could have checked other cameras in the area, if there were other cameras in the area.
I don't know. I assume they did that, but usually that's on somebody's front porch. And this side street, there was, memory serves, nobody's front door was in the immediate vicinity. I know across the street there's a fence. This was like on the side of a house. There's some landscaping and whatnot. There's a lot of bushes and whatnot. But to answer your question, I don't know.
Did witnesses hear the gunshot?
I believe one person did. And that set off around the speculation. I do remember too, just going back to the last question, I remember in the paper saying that part of that second round of people showing up at the crime scene, they put out a request to neighbors if they had any tape, anything that their security systems may have picked up. I remember that being talked about, that being said. I'm assuming it was carried out within the neighborhood. Probably at that time, cameras weren't as prevalent as they are today.
Yeah.
But if they found something, I don't know about it.
How old was she?
62.
And talking a little bit more about essentially like the series of events like right afterwards, I did find, and I this is a reliable source since it's Murder She Told, the Murder She Told podcast, who you guys know, Kristen, and so I trust her sources, and I know that I can see here that she talked with you guys as well, to ask certain questions. She did note that almost right after the gunshot was heard, police were called, and then it's almost as if when you were talking, Tom, about sort of like all the neighbors coming together and speculating and trying to see if anybody had footage, that's when conversation about a pickup truck.
Oh, the rusty pickup truck. Yes.
Is that good information? Should we talk about it or no?
It's certainly out there. It was shortly after that gunshot. There was a white male, younger white male in a white t-shirt type tank top, seen speeding away from the scene. Mike, I get that right?
Yeah, that was one of the witnesses said. Yeah, they nothing ever came of it.
Right.
Me and my brother and one of his friends were walking around the neighborhood one night, and after it all went down, we noticed that the guy right down the street drove an old, red, kind of a rusty pickup truck. So we started asking questions. Turns out the guy who owns that pickup truck was some guy of what was a known drug dealer, prone to violence. And so we asked the police, did you question this guy? And you guys must have heard this before. You don't know what they do with the information, right?
Right.
They told it this guy moved back to Texas from where he was from apparently, but they somehow cleared him. I don't know how they cleared him. The people who lived downstairs from him said he was a freak. He's always on something and always wanted to punch someone out. So
yeah, it's in times like that when you wish that like you understand and can appreciate the justice process. However, you wish that they would give you some pieces, right? Give us some piece of information right there, right? Like how did you clear him?
yeah,
I know that you actually did, sort of. Just throw me a bone here. Just a little bit more information.
Yeah, that's
I really wish they
frustrating.
did that. It is.
But yeah, that pickup truck. It was just in recent, the 10-year anniversary story that the union leader did.
Oh, okay.
Benegatti from the Attorney General's office seems like we don't even know if it came from a truck at all. So, it's almost if you add everything up, they really don't know anything.
Yeah, exactly. They can't substantiate it, and it's out there, but we're hoping that somebody can step forward and make sense of it,
Right.
or make it true, or make it work for us.
Right. Or step forward with some piece of real tangible something that can be verified that can help.
Yeah. And really, when you get down to Denise's case, or this case in general, it's left us really right where we are. We're pleading with people to come forward and provide that kind of information.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to take to solve her case.
They in fact told us that, right, Tom?
Yes.
Mm.
Yep.
Somebody would have to come with real credible information and a confession.
Whatever it takes to convict somebody, I suppose. Yeah. I mean, they have bits and pieces, but some of those puzzle pieces may not even fit. But
Yeah.
maybe some of them do.
Mhm.
And
They need some pieces to make it,
Yeah.
fit, so to speak, work.
Yeah.
Take to court. I guess however you want to term it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, when I get the opportunity to ask for people to step forward, I try to frame it in a way that you don't have to know the whole story. You don't know how, you don't have to know everything. If you know something, a little bit, I ask that they do come forward, just mention it, say it, add it to the pile that they already have. And at some point, maybe something will make sense.
Yeah. No, that's well put.
That's what I always say. I always
Gonna say
I
that.
always tell
You know,
people,
it's-
if I don't care how small of the information you have, it might be that little, they might have a whole bunch of information already gathered and they're just looking for that one little piece, that one little puzzle piece that
Mhm.
makes everything fit and makes sense. So whether
Yeah.
you think it's important or not, always come forward and say something. If you think you know something, say something. It doesn't matter how small, doesn't matter, how much information you have.
Right.
If you know something, say something, because you don't know. You don't know. It might be that one little bit of information to solve it.
Now, somebody recently said to me, it was somewhat profound. It was somewhat relevant to our case because we have had the opportunity to make our case to the public. One person came up to me and said, "Hey, hasn't it all been said by now? I mean, do you really expect anybody to come back with anything new?" And I mean, it hit me, and I had to think about it for a second. Then this one story of this one individual that I know. It's a woman. This woman told me that if she knew something or had a feeling about something, and it was about the court club. And I said to her, I said, would you call Manchester Crime Line and tell them what you said? And she didn't want to, but she said she would. All right, now I don't see this person that often, but when I saw her again, I say, "Hi, how you doing?" And we talk, and then gets around to that, and I says, "Did you make the call?" And she says, "No." So I call. We go away. I see her again, months down the road. And I believe this was several years ago, and I don't think that person has called yet. Now, I don't know what it takes, to get people to motivate somebody to do something like that. With this one person, I'm trying to be nice about it and that sort of thing. But I guess it goes to show that I think people out there know something, and maybe they're just waiting for the right time to say something. I think it's out there.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. You bring up a really interesting perspective too about, people that could possibly potentially know something, right? Whether it's your sister's case, whether it's another case, when they mention something and they're sort of like prompted, well, and we do the same thing through Invisible Tears because we get tips all the time for various different things, right? Well, did you contact the cold case unit or contact this police department that's heading the investigation, that sort of thing? And so often people are like, no. And we don't really know why, or like you said, Tom, what it would take for them to just take that leap. Like, I don't know if it's out of fear, if it's out of
You can even do it
uneasy.
anonymously.
That is
That's the
true.
thing. I
Yeah.
don't understand why people are so hesitant about coming forward with some information. It's kind of it's frustrating.
Very.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, there was a very well publicized murder in New York. There was a woman, her name was Kitty Genovese.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. She was
Right.
murdered, I believe, in broad daylight.
Well, there
People
were a lot of people
people
around. They
witnessed.
heard it. They
People
heard
witnessed, but nobody did anything. And the idea was, that I believe, or the mindset that people had about that was they didn't want to get involved. If they invested themselves in that, it would consume potentially their lives for, or a portion of their lives for, quite a bit of time moving forward, I suppose, or maybe expose themselves to danger. We can all speculate as to why a person would want to get involved, but I guess it is human nature, and maybe that's just one of the challenges that we have as a group, to overcome it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe try and attempt to lead the charge in the opposite way.
Yeah.
Right. So many
Yeah.
people have that initial instinct of not getting involved or not, like almost like fear and like freeze or something like that. Me personally, I've never been like that. I've always run towards it. I think that's probably another reason why I'm a victim advocate. Right. So, um,
Well, to keep it on a positive vein, I guess, that is definitely an obstacle, but, there are people who, stick their neck out. And maybe the best example I can think of is, you familiar with the Bear Brook murders?
yes.
I drive by that site, it must have been a million times, because I live in Deerfield. But at any rate, that took 30 some odd years. But it was, once that it became a cold case and the authorities put all the information out there, people started running with it. And they if you ever listen to that podcast, it's fascinating. The different threads and how far reaching it was. First of all, the perpetrator, it wasn't his first or his last, his experience in Allenstown, or what he did, what we found in Allenstown. So, people are, I think if you keep the word out, not everybody's like that, I guess. Yes, it's a factor, but
Mhm.
and I try to keep things on a positive spin.
Yep. That's a great point.
Well, sometimes cases get forgotten too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If cases aren't talked about for 10, 15 years, people assume that they're one, either solved, or two, they just never heard about them because so many years have gone by, and
Yeah.
people come and go in the area and whatnot. So, a lot of times when you stop talking about these cases that are, 10, 15, 20 years old, they get forgotten. And I think they get forgotten not just from the public, but they get forgotten up at the cold case unit too. That's what we fight for.
Mhm.
To make sure they don't forget about them.
Yeah.
That's why we do this podcast, because we make sure that we try to talk about cases that are unsolved so that people know that, these cases are unsolved. My case is 37 years now,
Wow.
unsolved. And people thought that it was solved until we started the podcast and started talking about my case, and people were like, whoa, I thought that was solved. I haven't heard about it for a long time. And nope, it's not solved. It still remains unsolved. So, which is kind of good with doing the podcast, because now people are coming forward with tips. Like, we get tips constantly now.
Oh,
Right.
I don't know if they're good tips or whatnot. I let the authorities do their job, and especially Amanda, she encourages people to bring the information to the cold case unit, because for one, we don't have the resources to investigate the tips, and two, it's not our job. So that's why we get on the AG's office butt and say, do your job. I know you got tips coming in. Do your job.
I sense that there's a degree of fatigue out there. This has been going on for a while. And I mean, the media has been, in my opinion, very generous with, their airtime and their support in talking to people like, I saw you on the news again, that sort of thing. And like I mentioned earlier about that fellow that said, well, you don't think they would have found her now? I mean, I just sense that there's a bit of a fatigue. But I suppose being enthusiastic, or we have to make our own breaks, so to speak. I suppose we just feel like we have to continue, doing what we have to do to encourage people to come forward.
Yeah. I mean, you guys want answers. I mean, I imagine your mom's still alive.
No, she passed.
No, she passed. So she passed not knowing.
Correct.
And, that had to be difficult because I'm sure she wanted to know, wanted the answers, wanted to know what happened and why and who. And that's sad.
No, it's a tragedy, a lot of different ways.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense because she doesn't seem like she was a threat to anyone or just stayed to herself. And I don't know. That's what I got from talking to you guys about her. And I just, it doesn't make any sense why anybody would want to shoot her. Like that.
And it was like one of the safest neighborhoods in Manchester too, right?
Just doesn't make sense.
Well, we all could speculate, and we have our perspectives and what we think. But part of this is we don't really know what was going on. Was she doing something that she shouldn't be doing, or was she just victimized? We don't know. I mean, I in my discussions with other people, I mean, the subject has kind of come up, but we don't know. I guess by the police finding out or putting together what happened and, it being proven to be the case, it will sort of settle everybody's minds, that sort of thing. And I think that's part of justice, what justice brings truth and hopefully accountability.
Yeah, exactly.
So if anybody has any information on the murder of Denise Robert, please contact the Manchester Police Department crime line at 603-624-4040, or you can also submit an anonymous tip online, just like Jane was just talking about. We'll make sure and have that number and that anonymous tip online link in our show notes for this episode.
Fantastic.
Well, thank you so much for being on today and sharing Denise's story.
Thank you for your efforts.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, of course. We really appreciate you guys' time.
Yeah.
And we will make sure and keep you posted on when this airs and when this goes live.
Oh, that'd be great.
Fantastic.
Thank you all for listening to this episode of Invisible Tears. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. You can find us on all platforms through our link tree in the show notes. There you can find our social media platforms, our YouTube, and our website with our merch. You can also find our Patreon there. So if you're interested in supporting and joining the Invisible Tears team, join our Patreon today. And as always, ratings and recommendations help our podcast in algorithms. So if you haven't shown us some love and given us a 5-star rating and review, please do so. We appreciate each and every one of you and your continued support.